All right, you guys probably got your notification,
Mhm.
and we are ready to go, Ashley, whenever you're ready. And I did just let her in, so
Oh, I don't see her yet.
maybe it was Ashley Mathis I let in. Let's see what we got here. Ashley 1, Kim 2, Thomas 3, Ina 4, Lena 5, Maggie 6.
Yeah, Ashley Scott isn't here yet. Let's see. Let me text her.
You want to text her real quick? We do have a quorum, so if she's running late or anything, we can get started, and I don't mind doing that. See if I can find the script somewhere.
I was just talking to her 10 minutes ago. Let's see.
Sometimes people like forget to just jump on. It's happened to me. Problem is I don't have the script.
Mindy's trying to get on right now, but the link's not working for her.
Let me try and share with her. You want to give her the meeting ID? I'll tell it to you if you want to text it.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the chat.
She says she's just waiting to get let in. Maybe she's on the wrong link.
Okay, hold on. Here's a bunch of people that just popped up for me. Tell them sorry. Did Mindy make it in? Here's the meeting ID in the chat.
Okay, I'll check there. Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I had like everybody just popped in at once. I guess y'all were waiting, but I didn't get the notification. Ashley, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
We are waiting on Mindy, but we can go ahead and just get moving and she'll try and jump on.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first Go Team meeting of 2024. This is the Morris Brandon January Go Team meeting. We're going to follow the agenda as noticed to the public and stay on track. I know we got a lot to cover today. I'd like to remind anyone who is of the public and not an official Go Team member that only members may participate in the discussion today. So any public members can quietly observe. So I'm pleased to call the meeting of the Morris Brandon Go Team to order. It is officially 3:33, I think. And Kimberly, is there a quorum present?
There is
or
a quorum.
Take roll. Sorry, take the roll.
That's okay. We took roll. Oh,
you
yep.
took.
And Mindy's in too now. We're good.
Oh, Mindy's in too. I
Yep.
think the only person we're missing is LaJoy. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so we do have a quorum.
Perfect. All right. Our first action item is to approve our agenda, which is up here on the screen. Lots to go over. This was provided to everyone and a copy is here. Are there any changes? Anyone?
No changes.
No changes. Okay. So may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Thomas. A second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Ashley. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Now we will review and approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Kimberly had sent those out. They've been emailed to everyone. Any corrections on any of those minutes? Okay, if there's no corrections, can I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I motion to approve.
Thank you, Ina. A second?
I'll second it.
I'll go with Thomas there. Thanks. And all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, now moving on to the discussion items, our first meeting to talk about budget allocation. So
Okay.
I'm kicking it over to Jay.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. I know it's been a little while since we last talked. The good news is we are here. We have our budget. You are the very first people to see our allocation and our projections for next year. So we're going to talk through that today. Not super in-depth today. Today, we're just presenting what was given to us. Okay. And we'll go from there. Spoiler alert, things look good. We're able to bring back all of our staff. Very excited about that. We're able to save 2.5 positions from CARES funding. Very excited about that as well. And we'll be able to talk through just a little bit of that today. Aside from that, I was asked to report a little bit on our CCRPI scores. I know our Go team was involved in that, the initial release, and talking through some of the greatschools.org information. And then at the very end, we were going to talk around school choice and what that means as well. That does impact our budget. So let me stop sharing and switch over my presentation. Okay. Everybody see? Thumbs up. You know it's budget season time when my favorite Sutton soccer player, Daniel Edelman, is right there on the front page. He was my soccer player 15 years ago at Sutton, and he is still on the front page of the budget development process. So that's funny. Coach's son too. Okay. Fun fact, in case you were curious. Here's some norms. Remember, I take the PowerPoint and I just kind of put in there. So these are norms that were given to us by the Go team. I will allow you just to take a second to read those if you need. Okay, let's keep rolling. This is where we are in our budget development process. If you remember, we did a data review. We'll do a quick highlight of that today. If you remember, we made some edits to our strategic plan, and you all were very helpful with that, and thank you. We set our strategic priorities and we ranked them, if you remember. We did that our very last meeting or right before break. And now we are right around the budget choices. Not quite the budget choices, though. Today should be more so the budget allocation. Budget choices will be coming around. If you remember, we have about 3 or 4 meetings in the next 2 months. And each one will be pretty structured with that. Here's an overview of the process. We are now right around step 3, initial budget allocation session. We'll come back in February, and we're going to discuss our supports and our needs and our staffing. Okay, as making sure it's aligned to our strategic plan. Then we'll come back and we will have our feedback session. And then just so you know, as we get right around here, I have my budget staffing with our boss, and I run through everything that we discussed, and then we need to vote on the final budget by March 15th. Just a little bit around what this meeting is going to take. I'm just going to read this to you. I usually don't, but I will. The first Go team meeting is when the principal will provide an overview of the budget allocation for Go team members and the general public. This meeting provides an opportunity for the principal and Go team to ensure alignment on the school's strategic priorities, gain a deeper understanding of the budget allocation, and provide input to drive the direction of the draft budget. And that should be right around now. Okay. One other thing to note is I will be sort of representing this information to our community tomorrow in our principal coffee talk. So I always want Go team to kind of hear it first, and then it's public, and then we'll come out to them as well. A little bit around my role and a little bit around your role. My role is to design the budget, propose operational changes that can raise student achievement, flesh out strategies, and implement and manage them at the school level, focus on day-to-day operations, serve as the expert on the school, and hire quality instructional and support personnel. Go team's role is to focus on the big picture. We look at positions and resources and never people, never use names or anything along those lines. Ensure that the budget is aligned to the school's mission and vision, that the resources are allocated to support key strategic priorities. None of this is new to you all, but it's good to review this before. Just a reminder of here's our strategic plan. We had some great updates the last time. You should have hard copies of this, or at least it's posted on our website and our drive. We added a few things around dyslexia trainings and House Bill 538, staff mentoring plans, the new math units, a lot of good stuff on there. But I'm not going to spend too much time on the strategic plan today. We also ranked our priorities, if you remember. I always think it's cool when our Go team kind of ranks the top 3 all the same. and they all had to do with academic growth. Making sure students are reading on grade level is a big one. Remember that too, because we're going to talk about that percentage in a little bit. Make sure our subgroups are making academic progress and building systems that increase academic and emotional growth for all students. 3 great priorities that we've all sort of agreed upon. Remember, this is not most important to least important. These are all high priorities, but we have to rank them. Okay. So I would never tell you that building culture through leadership is not a priority, because it is. It's something we try and build our staff up for. It's just not something that's going to potentially drive our funding. All right, just a couple things about our priorities. I don't want to read them again, but I put some rationales over here, so I'm just going to talk around those. We want to see students reading on grade level because our CCRPI indicated that 85% of our students are reading on grade level or above. That's a great percentage. It's up 5%. We want to make sure our subgroups are making academic progress because our students grow at different rates. We need to push our subgroups to close the gap in proficiency. We have to push our subgroups, remember, because when the subgroups are behind our main group, we have to push them faster and harder in order to catch up and close that gap. They have to be growing at a faster rate. Build systems, increase academic and social emotional support. We talked about our CIP goals in the BESC. Social emotional support, reducing those elevated and highly elevated students. Increasing masteries, math, science, social studies. This is all part of our continuous improvement plan, which I probably should have put strategic plan on there too, because if you remember, I had kind of 2 different goals and I made them all the same. So these goals are the same for strategic plan as well. We're looking for 5% growth in ELA and math. That math one should actually say 74%. I think I should put 75. Should be 5%. We'll take 76 though, or 75%. Increase staff engagement. We want to retain high quality staff. We had a lot of hires this year. We don't want to do that again. We want to build systems and resources to support our IB, PYP, DLI, and gifted. We have a big reauthorization coming up next year. And we've already started the process of really training and retraining our staff and new teachers. And continue to support our DLI and gifted collaboration model. Special ed, we want to make sure our students are growing because they're growing at different rates. Same thing I had before. Building teacher capacity in core content areas. We talked a lot about the adoption of House Bill 538. We have a staff meeting next Tuesday where we're going to talk about some of those requirements for our staff and what that's going to look like. For all staff, K-5. It was supposed to be K-3, and APS is going to be making sure that all staff in K-5 either take the modules or are certified. And there will be stipends that are along with that. And that's something that we're going to talk with our staff about a little bit next week. But we want to make sure that we're building this and making sure we're working towards that.
That's dyslexia, right, Jay?
Yes, that's the dyslexia House bill that talks about high quality instruction and interventions, and professional learning is the big one. There's a few vetted professional learning modules that teachers are going to have to take either online or in person or graduate college after July 17th. They'll have it on their GACE. It's kind of all part of it, but everybody just needs to be caught up next year.
Got
it. Student engagement. We want to look at our climate survey rating and our student climate survey. They just finished that recently, so I'm looking forward to seeing the data on that. And then, of course, building culture through staff leadership opportunities in order to increase our retention rate. So let's talk about our budget. Everybody ready? Let's go. Pay attention to the second to last line. The proposed budget for the general operations of the school is reflected at $10,785,334. Okay. This investment plan for FY25 accommodates a student population that is projected to be 893 students, which is an increase of 49 students from FY24, which equals an increase of $1,168,012.
Jay, can you remind me again, do these student numbers include the Autism Center?
Great question. They do. Absolutely. The only students they do not count it for is pre-K. So you will not see our pre-K numbers in here. So if we actually have 893 students show up at our door, that's really going to be 919 students or whatever that is. 893 plus 22. I probably got that wrong. I don't know. I can't do the math in my head right now, but you're never going to count the pre-K students. Okay. I just want to take a second on this slide because I lost sleep over getting this budget. I had 2.5 teachers that I didn't know would be able to return next year. I didn't know if we were going to be able to have all of our staff back. But it was great to see that APS is committed to moving funds away from up top in central office, and they're really trying to get them back down to the schools. Okay.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. We're in a really good spot. Good
Oh,
spot.
I have another question.
Yep.
Did they talk about anything that they are funding that CARE stopped funding? Because I never heard back after my like multiple emails, and then they sent me that one high level presentation that really didn't answer any of my questions
Right.
about like, so you talk about Hazel, are you gonna fund it? How much does it cost? Was it great? Was it not great?
Right. Those are
Um,
great questions, and those are answers that we probably want to make sure we have by the next meeting when we begin to look at how we're going to use our money. I have not gotten that information. The only thing I do know is that Atlanta Virtual Academy is now gone.
I saw that.
And I know that we have been provided funds for school social workers and media specialists that are sort of built into our budget. So we're not earning social workers or media specialists, they are paying for them from the central office to ensure that every school has them.
And that
Same with,
was, but that wasn't part of CARE, right? That was before.
no, that's not CARES. You're right. That was before. So I would not be able to speak to kind of what CARES is funding now and what it's not doing. But that's a good question, Kim, and you and I can talk offline and let's see if we can get some of those answers.
I'll just follow up like I did before and just say, hey, now it's budget time. I
Right.
hope you were able to find all these
Ask them
numbers.
if our school is going to have to fund Hazel Health on their own. That's a good question. Not that we
Yeah.
would do that necessarily, but it's a good, it's exactly what we need to know right now.
Yeah, and I don't know if Hazel Health is like, again, I was asking them like how many people used it? Like,
Yeah.
if only 3 people used it, then obviously I don't think we need to fund it.
Yeah. I can
but
probably get us numbers on how many people used it at Brandon though. I can get that.
You have those numbers it's on that Hazel report.
it's on that piece of paper, but
Okay.
it didn't say like how much it cost, right?
Yeah.
So
Not gonna have
and Hazel Health might not be the good example, but there was some other stuff in CARES funding which I thought was important.
right. All right, well, let's keep going because you may have some more questions on the next slide. And I want you to take as much time as we need here, but we have a lot to get to. I do have a basketball practice at 5. It is hit or miss on whether or not I make it. That's okay. It's not for me, it's for my kid, but that's all right. But I want to make sure that we get plenty of time here, so there's no rush. It's okay. All right, I want to talk about the school allocation. This is the allocation right here. Pay attention to these 5 rows right here. These are our grade level projections for next year. Okay, we're projected at having another 160 kindergartners. That's fantastic. You need to continue to do that. Okay. Or that 160 is moving into 168, which is now rolling down to 172, right? That's our big 3 grade levels. Our smallest grade level this year is 2nd grade. They're rolling into 3rd. So I'm excited to kind of share that staffing plan with you the next time we come. I've already worked on all that. And then we have a big 3rd grade class rolling into 4th. And then we drop off typically around 5th grade where we have our private school applications. Okay. Now let's take a look at the weights. One of the reasons why we earn so much money and we push, and I got to give shout outs to Ashley and Jenny Perry and Ann Murphy and Ashley Portis and everybody else who gets these school tours, because the highest weight of anything you're going to see on here outside of VIP is kindergarten. You get the most funding for kindergartners, right? And gifted sometimes too. But it's only because I'll explain that later. But for grade levels, you're not going to get any higher than 0.6. You're going to take this 159. I know you guys are math people, but I want to make sure you know this. You're going to take the 159 kindergartners we have, and you're going to multiply it by the base weight. Every student comes with this dollar amount, $5,334. Well, let's start with this. Let's start with the school count. 893 times $5,334. That brings us right now $5,334. Gives us right at $4,763 and $4,763,243. That is our allocation, just base weight, just off of our students. So by having 893 kids, we flat out earned $4.7 million right there. Those kids have weights on top of them though. So let's take the 159 kindergarten. Let's multiply it by the base weight, 5,334. That's going to give us 848,106. And then we're going to multiply that times the weight. That's going to give us an additional $508,863 for kindergartners. Okay. And that's how we balance our weight out. That's a huge amount for kindergarten. But that huge amount is what funds 8 teachers, 8 paraprofessionals, right? So that's how you balance it out. So each of these have an additional weight, but you can see how much money kindergarten comes in. First grade, second grade, and third grade, the weights drop off. You don't get any money for 4th through 9th grade. Okay. I'm not sure why. I wouldn't be able to answer that, but I think it's because you probably earned the money at the younger grades. I'm not quite sure though, but I just know that you earn that the weights stop after 3rd, and then you begin to get weights for these types of students too. This is why our reporting system and Infinite Campus and our state reporting is so important. When they pull numbers, we talk about FTE. If you don't know what that stands for, it stands for full-time equivalent. But we have FTE counts on the 2nd Tuesday in March and the 3rd Tuesday in February, where they take a snapshot in split second of our data system, and that's where they pull all of our students. And at that time, we had 88 students listed in poverty. Those 88 students, you multiply that times the base weight times 0.47, you're going to get an additional $220,000. We have 58 students that are identified as EIP. Multiply that times the base weight. It's a very high weight right here. And then you get another 324,000. Special ed, 92, very low weight for special ed. Anybody know why it would be low for special ed?
I would think it would be the opposite. Like we'd get
Because
more.
they
There's
have
other
separate
funding.
There's other, yeah.
Exactly. They use the separate funding because they actually provide us the teachers. Special education teachers are allotted to us and comes out of a different bucket. So we don't see that as much on ours. We'll earn them as a base weight right here. They'll be in this overall allocation, but they don't bring a lot of extra money because we earn them in bodies and teachers. And then gifted carries a huge weight. Love seeing this number up here. I want to get it closer to 300 like we were before the pandemic. But of course, we're about 200 kids less. Multiply that, 851,000 for our gifted students. ELLs right here are language learners. And then we don't get any of these other stipends down here. Okay. Any questions around this?
Why do we need more gifted students? Because we get more money.
More money.
Okay.
Gifted has a really high weight. And it's typically the higher the weight is, it's because they can do that because there's less gifted students in the district. So they kind of divide it up. If there was, 3 times as many gifted students in the district, there'd probably be a lower weight. But I just like to have more gifted students to bring in more funding, to build our program up. And I just know we had probably around 300 my first year here. But that was when we had 1,017 kids, and now we're barely touching 900. And I really hope that we can get there. Okay. All right. Talk about a little bit of our additional earnings. Let me just show you this. This is the overall SSF allocation right here. $7,354,321. Talk about additional earnings, signature funds. This funds our IB specialists and money that we can put towards our PYP trainings and IB, and it's built into our formula and hire more teachers. We get $329,310 for signature funds. We're not a turnaround school, Title I holdback, family engagement, Title School improvement. And it's important to know that we don't get money for those. It's important to know that there are schools that have half as many kids in us that have similar dollar amounts than us because they earn lots of money in Title I, federal designation money from the government. But we don't get any of that. They build in about $33K for field trips, so we can help with that, with the buses and things like that for kids. We do often pay for students that are not able to attend, things like that. Dual campus supplement. We get additional funds for a school, another school campus, because you have to run that campus with a clerk, with a secretary, with a program administrator, those types of things. We get some stipends. It went up a little bit. We get 6 grade level stipends at $3,000 a piece. So it's actually a little more than that in there, to be honest with you. That's probably not the right number. That's pre-populated on my template, but I think I want to say more than that. I'll double check that for you. And then flex dollars, additional money. Not quite sure what flex dollars is, to be completely honest with you. But overall, That's going to give us an overall $10.785 million budget. You're going to add this total allocation in with the SSF allocation. The most important thing for you to take note of right now is the base weight, the amount of students, and the grade levels. The weights change year to year, but one of the reasons why we earn more money was because they changed the base weight. So they added a couple $100 to that base weight. And the next time I come, I will show you a back-to-back, kind of this snapshot from this year and this snapshot from last year too, so you can see how it changed a little bit. Any questions
Jay.
around the overall allocation?
I had a question on the next slide, I believe it was. When especially like allocated like that, do you have to, for example, use exactly 33,805 for field
No.
trip, or if you don't need it,
Good
you can
question. It's
reallocate it?
all one big lump sum, one big
Got it.
lump sum.
Great.
So
Okay.
what happens is when I open up my budget template, it'll have this $10 million number there. And then below it, it'll either be red or green. And it'll show me how many hundred thousands of dollars I'm in the red or green based off of all the staff I have right now. So if we were to have lost a lot of staff, I would be probably in the red, and I'd have to start swiping through staff members on where I need to take them out. And that number drops down until it's balanced. When I opened up my budget this time, we were in the green and we had money to spend. Right? We had a lot of money to spend, and I was able to pull over a third grade teacher off of CARES and put them on our budget, and then abolish their CARES position. I was able to pull over another full-time position and then abolish their position, and able to pull over a kindergarten para and abolish their position, and able to keep all of that on there without losing them and still being in the plus. And that's we're a little ahead of the game, and I'll talk to you about that next time we come. But hopefully that makes sense.
Jay, I have a quick question.
Yep.
So, on our cluster advisory report out, Lizzie Wickland had said that each school's getting an additional $135,000 to potentially add another counselor. Is that the flex money right there, or is that not reflected yet?
The flex money is probably the money they put in there for us to use how we would like. Okay.
So,
I don't think it's earmarked for a counselor. I've not heard that. But it's probably about a money that schools got that they could use to just help supplement and pad their dollar amounts.
okay,
Again, I don't see that broken out into like a very specific dollar amount on my template. It's all one big sum. So this is just sort of where it's broken out. But it's just additional monies they gave us, but I have not heard it earmarked for counselors though.
Okay, and then Governor Kemp was going to give $60,000 specifically earmarked for security, but I understand APS has not. We're waiting to hear how that can be spent, right?
Correct.
So that's
And that was one of my questions. Do I have? I want to say 46,000. If it's 60, that's great. But it's not in this budget yet. It's good. They're trying to figure out how to get that to us. And then I have a bit of a plan on how I'd like to utilize those funds as soon as we get them. But that is not that's not built into this budget.
that's what I thought. Thanks.
Yep. That's a good question though. One other thing that's being pondered by APS, which is not in here, is creating a I guess it's I want to say literacy coach, but we sort of already have one. It's sort of like a I can't think of the right word. It's basically like a new literacy coach that can help that's going to help roll out House Bill 538 and support teacher trainings and support really early literacy at every school.
Good.
And they're trying to give one of those allotments to every school. And then what we would do is interview that for our school. I'm sure we'd have teachers that are interested in that, and then we would hire for their position. That's one thing that I've heard is pending and looking very likely, which makes me excited.
Can we advocate for that with the board? Like,
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
a great idea.
Absolutely. And by the way, the board was here yesterday.
I
Dr.
saw
Battle and Jen McDonald, who said great things about you, Ashley, and our team, and says how supportive we are, and just wanted to put that out there. And that is something you can advocate. And from my understanding, it's looking really good. It just hasn't come to matriculation yet. So please, if you want to advocate for, I don't know the quite, I guess I would just call it a literacy coach, but it's different than an instructional coach.
that would be awesome.
Yes, that's exciting. All right, so let's keep rolling. All right, so we have our budget allocation meeting now. In February, I've got some one-on-ones with my boss. We're going to do some cluster planning sessions with the cluster advisory team. Go team feedback meeting before my principal conference that we'll do. So what I'll do the next time we come is I'm going to show you how I've staffed our grade levels, and you're going to see our teachers what their average class sizes are, how they fit into our innovative model, and how we're going to support our strategic priorities with everything that we have based on a staffing document. And then we're going to look at the amount of money that I have left over, and we're going to figure out where we want to put that. Okay. Any questions? I know it was a little fast, but that's about the bulk of the budget for now. They want me to kind of go slow to start. All right. Do we feel okay? Long story short, $10.7 million, more than we've ever had. We're growing. There are schools that are losing students, and I will tell you, the bulk of schools in APS are losing students. That's just known that kids are, that the schools are changing. I told you 50 years ago, APS had 150,000 kids in it. They've got 36,000 now. We are still growing, and that's good. The next time I come, I want to show you our 5-year projection, though, because they do have it kind of mapped out of what each grade level is going to look like in 23, 20, or 24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27, and then 27, 28. And I'll share that with you. And I look for that'll be on the next one, just so we can kind of look at those numbers. Okay. And then before March 15th, we need to vote on that budget. All right. Any questions? It's good going into these meetings knowing that we're not going to have to be having abolishment conversations with teachers. And when teachers know that there's no abolishment conversations, the culture and the feel of the building feels a little better. Knowing that if you were the last one in, you're not going to be the first one out this time. Okay. Do you guys want to talk about CCRPI for a second?
Yes.
All right, here's our 4 buckets. They came in. Excuse me. I need a little water. Give me 1 second. Okay, these are now populated. I was going to click on this so I could dig in a little deeper with you. A couple things. CCRPI always had these 4 buckets: content mastery, progress, closing the gaps, and readiness. These are typically, we get a score for each of these buckets, and it gives us 1 CCRPI score overall. The last time we had a CCRPI score was a 95.1, and that was 4 years ago. I can't remember. But this is now finally the first time that we're going to have 2 years in a row of really reliable data. So this time next year, this will have a score. They're going to base our growth and our achievement and everything off of how we did last year, which was a completely normal year, to this year, which is going to be a completely normal year. Okay. Couple quick things. We went up in content mastery. I'm just gonna show you. Can you still see my screen? You can see the CCRPI screen. Okay, cool. Let's do it. You can always Google, by the way, go to Google, type in CCRPI Georgia or just CCRPI. You can look up every single school. Okay. Going to Morris Brandon. We're going to see our overview. It's going to have all of our data, all of our percentages. You're going to click on elementary. You're going to get this screen here that I just cut and paste. Let's start with content mastery right here. Click on the content mastery tab. We went up 1.1 points in content mastery. You always want to see growth in content mastery. You can get hundreds and above. And, that's our goal, to get back to 100 and above. District score and state score. English language arts, we went up almost 3 points, crushed it. Math, we went up 0.5 point. Science, hurt us on content mastery. But we know where we are with science right now because we looked at that data the last time, and we're going to look at it again in just a second. This is just a summary of the performance achievement bands. So this is the percentage of students that fell in each band. So you can see, English language arts, 38 plus 32 is 70. About 71, 72% of our students were proficient ELA. But then you can start breaking it down and really digging in and looking at who those students are and who carry the weight. You can do the same thing for math, right? Right around 70% again. But we know where we got to be: 74 and 75% this year for reading and math. And then here's science, a lot lower, right? 20, 36% of our kids were sitting, beginning, and developing. That's only 5th grade. It's only 5th grade. Okay.
So this is just milestones. They're just taking CCRPI is taking milestone scores for
just
this.
science. So you're right. So this is just milestones. Great question. Okay. This is only 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade milestones from last year. But we'd like to see this as a snapshot of the whole school. Now let's go to another one, progress. Our progress score is right here. Progress is going to measure the amount of growth students had from one year to the next. So they were able to get progress from last year and then the year before that. Okay. So they do have progress from 2 years ago to last year. And this is the score that we got for progress. Our students showed really great growth. If we're looking at overall all students, you're talking right around 70% of students really had that typical to high growth level 3 or level 4. What I found interesting is you either had level 3 or level 4 or level 1. There wasn't a whole lot of level 2 in there, right? And you can see our subgroups down here. Language arts, math, definitely a great job in language arts, math a little bit lower. The big one for us is proficiency towards language proficiency. So for our school, for schools that have students that are not native English speakers, you give what's called an access test. Access test measures their reading, listening, speaking, writing at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. And that's how we measure them. And we want to see them moving bands. There's how many bands, Mindy? Do you know 5 bands, 6 bands? I can't remember. Like if you start on band 1, you're basically like limited English. But at the end of the year, if you move one band, you get like 0.5 CCRPI points. If you move 2 bands, you get 1 full point. And if you need more than 2 bands, you get like 1.5 CCRPI points. But long story short is we got 100% and all the points we could possibly get for our access scores and our progress towards English language proficiency. 67% of our English language learners moved more than 1 band. That's awesome. That's just in classes with kids that are pushing them. That's Miss Dickerson, that's Miss Cutshaw, that's our ESOL teams. So that they really, really did a good job. So shout out to them. And that's factored into our CCRPI. I'm going to keep rolling, pushing the time here. Closing the gaps, that's our lowest one, right? Let's take a look at these flags. Never loved seeing 73.5. We'll do better this year, okay? For flags, you get a couple things. One, you get a target that is set the year before. We don't know what those targets are. There's a way to find them out. I'm not quite sure, really, but the bar is different for all of our different subgroups. So our special ed students 2 years ago did really poorly on the Georgia milestones. Their bar was set a little bit lower last year. They came in last year and exceeded the bar. So they got the little sneech. I call that a sneech, the little yellow star. So you want green, yellow stars are even better. You don't really want red, right? Well, where do we see our red? We have 3 red flags right here in math. But we've looked at our math data, and I'm gonna show you where we are. Right here. Remember that Black, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged go hand in hand. Some of these kids hit all 2 of those categories right there. And then we can see that science hurt us in 5th grade right here. We put a lot of stuff in place for this. And there's a reason why these strategic priorities are on are in our strategic plan. Okay. So think about this. When we begin to think about our budget for next year, these are really good data points. Okay. Any questions at all? This is just the summary, so there's not a whole lot there. I'm going to keep going. The last thing is readiness. Readiness is a few things. It's the amount of students that are reading on grade level. 85%, great number. It's up 5% from the year before. We really crushed reading. I mean, we really did. Anything that's tied to reading last year was great. Student attendance. I drill attendance all the time. People don't think it's important. This shows up right here. We had 90% of our students last year were present at least 90% of the time they were enrolled. Okay. And so we're always pushing our kids. We've actually got to get that number up higher. I want that to be 93, 94. Okay. Which we're trending that way this year. We're doing a little better. And then beyond the core is the amount of students that are enrolled in a fine arts or foreign language. This should be 100%. I take credit for missing one student, or one student was enrolled late, or something happened where they got missed. It didn't hurt us really, but that needs to be 100%. And I know who that child is. Okay. We just didn't, they just weren't scheduled in the fine arts or foreign language. And that's why we have to do that verification. But long story short, it didn't really impact the overall score of that 91.9 that much. If you're curious to know how our student subgroups are reading on grade level based on last year, take a look at this slide right here. Okay. White, multiracial are our highest. Our economically disadvantaged and students with disability are our lowest. Okay. But average 85% of our students are reading on grade level. And this is just a little more about the student attendance. If you want to know the attendance rates by subgroup, here you are. Notice how our lowest income students are the ones who come to school have the lowest attendance rate. Okay. And then beyond the core. Yeah, it's like one kid who fell into those three categories. All right. So let me go back to my budget allocation CCRPI slide. Can you see it still? Do we have any questions around this for now? We're going to talk a little bit more about this at our parent meeting tomorrow, parent coffee talk. Ashley?
I had a question. So I guess the proficiency number that's like in the 60%, that has to do with math tests, right? That we talked about, the 67%.
Is that what we talked about the last meeting or on the CCRPI report?
Yeah, I mean, on
Yeah,
the,
I actually
okay,
have some
yeah,
data slides. I have some data slides here if you want me to go through that, because I know you're probably trying to remember where we are right now with maps. So I did put them in there. If you
So
want to talk through it.
math tests, and this is
Yeah.
mouse.
Milestones. Now, the
Got it.
reason we use map though, just so you know, there's it's very, very highly correlated to the
Yeah,
winter map,
how
the
you're gonna-
milestones. I
Okay.
mean, it's like if a kid is proficient in December on map, they're proficient in March on the milestones. They've
Got
done
it.
studies on it, super aligned.
Yeah.
The highest alignment, in case you're curious, is how they did the year before. That's it. If a kid was distinguished the year before, they're going to be distinguished the next year. That's what the studies show. But what our work is how do we get those kids that typically aren't that way to that way? And that's the question. Let's talk about the data real quick. I just want to remind you that Brandon right now, school-wide, was sitting at number 5 out of 54 schools with their growth quintile. That's a great data point. That's not achievement. That's growth. We're going to be top 5 in achievement. That's not, we don't rest our laurels on that. But to be able to achieve and grow our kids is a great data number. Okay. Here's reading 3.5. All right, puts them at about 11, but still, that's a good number to be at. There's not a lot of like schools that are higher than us. Remember, schools that have lower achievement typically have the ability to have really high growth too, because they have nowhere to go but up. A lot of our kids are sitting at proficient, but they're still growing. Math right here, school wide, really great growth. We're going to be top 5 proficiency in math no matter what. Can we still get our kids to grow? If we were to look at one little bitty red flag, it would be math 3.5, which we dropped down a little bit here. Okay. That's not every teacher 3.5, but we have some spots that we're focusing on and some strategies that we're working towards. But I wanted to remind you of these slides right here. I got a few more. Growth achievement. This is math. There's Brandon right there. Okay. If you're curious, these green schools are all the Midtown cluster. They're STEAM STEM. So they're typically very strong in math. But the next closest school is Brandon. I like that. Okay. Here we are for reading. That's us right there. They didn't put our name for reading. All right. Once again, I mean, we're where we need to be. Okay. This is K5. Any questions so far about these data pieces? Because I want to talk about science next. Let's not forget about science. So if you remember, we got 2 red flags in science. Okay. We're not going to get red flags this year. Not going to allow it. We put a lot of work into science. Take a look at these growth percentiles for science and all the schools that are below us on those 2 science tests that we've taken this year with our new 5th grade teachers that are phenomenal. We'll take a look at the 5th grade numbers, by the way, in case you're curious about how many 5th graders of these other schools have. Okay, can you see that okay? I need to make it bigger. All right. So King is a middle school. Outside of that, there ain't no 5th grade, there's nowhere near as big as many 5th graders as we have. All right. Rolling. And that was a little bit of the data piece. Any questions along that before I close it up with some school choice? Okay. School choice is something that if I probably had to say of not sending this letter home with every single parent, I probably wouldn't have. I think it was just a waste of paper because it's for students in schools that want to apply for other schools. But in my 7 years at Morris Brandon, 6 years at Morris Brandon, I don't know of a student that has left Brandon to go to school choice at another school. That's just how that's just how it's been. So we did not need to send us home with everybody. It caused confusion for people, and I think that it probably just didn't need to be there. But it began to spark some conversations about what is school choice, who do we let in, how many do we let in, how much funding is there, and so forth, right? So, a couple questions. Do we have room to accept school choice students at Brandon? APS uses a capacity document for school choice. Spots are only identified as room is available. The answer for Brandon would be yes. I want to show you this document on the very bottom. Can you see this? This, I'm going to tell you right now, take this with a grain of salt, because it's basically telling us how much space or capacity our school can hold, but we really know how much our school can hold. It says our capacity for our school is 1,365 students. I have no idea where we would put those kids. I really don't. And when I look at the primary center, like, are they factoring in like an autism regional classroom where you can only have like 12 kids in there? Or are they factoring in, a PLC room that we have to plan in? Are you going to tell us we can't use that? We got to put kids in there? So that's just, I would take that with a grain of salt. But basically what it's telling you is we have capacity, and I know we have capacity. We've been at 1,017 to take some school choice kids. These are the recommended class sizes, by the way. So to be able to have recommended class sizes of 21 and be able to hold 1,365 people, I'm telling you that every single space, every room, and every closet in both buildings would have to be utilized. So, but we don't have to worry about that. Long story short is we have capacity. There are schools that are not at capacity. There are schools that are at capacity, that are like over that 90% threshold, and they don't have to do school choice. We used to not have to do it either because we were dual campus, and they were like funny about that, and they were like, they didn't want us to do it, and they opened that up to us. I think it's a great choice for kids that live in the city of Atlanta who want to come to Morris Brandon. And so I open up school choices in K through 5. It's a good way to earn more students. It's a good way to earn more numbers, but I'll say this, and hope you understand what I'm saying. It's a good way to open up a lot of problems at your school. It just is when you open up students that are coming from outside of your school zone because they have to get there. They can't take transportation. Attendance can hurt. Sometimes you get behaviors. Sometimes you get exceptionalities and special education services, and it just becomes a lot. And knowing that we already have our hands full with 893 students, do we have room to take more students from across the city? Well, I will say yes, we do. So we open up school choices K5. I'm not going to tell you how many we open up because it's a lottery. Parents don't know how many. It could be 1 per grade level, or it can be 25, right? All I'm going to tell you is, like you've continued to do, is trust me and know that we're not going above these 21, 22 class sizes. We're going to keep our class sizes low. We're going to keep the same staff we have. But when we welcome school choice in, it helps us pad our numbers a little bit, right? We get those numbers in there, and it helps us, it helps other students sometimes get a great education at our school. If so, at what grades and how do we determine if we have room? This is based off of careful planning. My goal is to have between 18 and 22 per class. So like if I got 159 kindergartners coming, I'm not going to open up 30 school choice in kindergarten. We just don't have the space there. Okay. If I have 125 fifth graders, I'm not going to open up 30 school choice in fifth grade either, because I don't want a ton of school choice of kids coming in just in fifth grade. I want kids coming in at the younger grades where we can build them up and build them and build them and build them until they get to fifth grade. When you open them up in fifth, which we do have some spots in fifth, not a lot, but when you open them up, you get kids that are coming in and sometimes they're behind, and you just can't catch a child up when they come to you in fifth grade. It's tough. A lot of school choice spots are from students, faculty, staff, people in the district that work in the district too. We get a lot of this. Do we have to take school choice students? No, but it is often encouraged. And when I tell you it is encouraged, it is highly encouraged. But I love the opportunity to do that. And we open it up, and the lottery is happening now. But with our school choice kids, APS is super supportive on exiting them if they're not holding to our standards of behavior, academics, behavior, attendance, and parental agreement. An agreement with parents means that we have to have a good working relationship with your parents. And we have been in meetings with school choice parents before where they just have not been as polite as we would like. And we kindly invite them back to their home school, and APS helps them with that. So it is a tightrope for it. but I just wanted to talk a little bit around this. And if you have any questions, if you have any friends that live across the city and want to come to Morris Brandon, I mean, this is the time to fill out the application in the lottery. Okay. Any questions, Ashley? Did I answer any of this? Feel
Yeah,
good?
no, that's great. Yeah, I think the only school in the North Atlanta cluster that's at capacity is North Atlanta. They're like at 95%. So that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And you do have
Oh.
to apply every year, correct, Jay? Like
No,
once,
you only have to apply once, but once you
Oh,
hit
really?
that highest grade level, you have to go back to your home school. So you're not guaranteed to go to Sutton or North Atlanta.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say something really quickly. I've had a really positive experience with my school choice families. And I know that's not always the case, but I just wanted to say that in here, that when we're talking about these children, sometimes it's like really easy to like jump to conclusions. And I can personally say that, and when I've had them in recent years and current years, it's been a wonderful addition to the classroom, and the families are amazing to work with. So I just want to put that out there that I don't know. Sometimes it's, even when I hear it, having lived through that, I'm like,
No, it does. I mean, I will tell you,
kids that like
teachers get a little scared.
really
Yeah, they
some
don't
of
know.
my favorites. So anyways, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. And I think it comes in the mentality of, we already have like 893 problems. I'm just kidding. 893 kids. But you know, like, do we have room to like invite more in here and more SST or EIP or gifted or special ed? Like, do we have the capacity to do that? And I just think people like, it's easier when kids live in our community and they know the kids and they build the community and they're here. But I've had great experience too. And I love those school choice kids. They love being here. It's a wide variety of economic backgrounds, really is. And it's everybody from APS central office kids to bus driver kids to people that just live on the south side that wake up at 5 a.m. just to drive their kids here in the morning. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. We opened it up, but I won't tell you the numbers ever, because it'll mess up the lottery, you know, on how they do it and how many they accept. So, okay. We're almost done, and it's right around my time I got to go. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for any questions that you have. You guys did a great job. We talked about the allocation, the initial one. Now it's time for me to get to work on staffing and budgeting and hiring and all of that, and coming to you with a plan next time. We talked about our CCRPI score, which we're going to share all of this with our families tomorrow as well. And I encourage you to be on our principal coffee talk. And then we talked a little bit about school choice. And again, school choice is also just a great way to pad your numbers. And it's a great way to get more kids in if you're under a little bit. You know, I worry about the 893. I want to have them, but I'm going to show you the plan I have if we don't have all of them come. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right, Ashley, I'm going to hand it over to you then. Okay.
Yep. So just a couple things. Was anyone able to go to the APS? This is APS calendar survey meeting for Go Team? Maggie. Okay.
Maggie and I went. Yep.
Okay. Any highlights from that? Or it sounds like they're working on it. Did you get feedback?
I did see that there was
They're
we
still
did
working
get
on that
feedback.
calendar. I can tell you, I was on some, sorry to cut you off, Maggie.
No,
I
you're
was
fine.
on a, I don't even know, since I'm like the lead principal over the principals in the North Atlanta cluster in regard to the cluster advisory team, I go to another meeting with all the lead principals from the other clusters with the two parents from the heads of whatever. And that was last night at 5:30. Literally, I was on until 7:30 at night. They talked about the calendar. They're still doing feedback sessions. I don't think it's been settled upon yet. But it was definitely talked about.
Yeah, they were really they were going over a lot of the feedback they'd gotten, and from parents and from teachers and I think even some students. So I did see on a North Atlanta parent Facebook group today that there was going to be another survey probably coming out in the middle of February. So we really want to push that out to our families, because the North Atlanta cluster had a really good response rate. They are tracking what district or what clusters the feedback's coming from, but I think we should put as much out there as we can. And then there's something else. We did talk to them about the concern of coming back after Memorial Day. And a lot of the conversation, though, is not, I know I was part of this, was around how it impacts high schoolers. and just kind of seeing the schedule from the bigger picture outside of just Morris Brandon, but all the kids in the school. And then Lizzie Wickland's amazing, you know, and she was giving good context for how we kind of got to where we are with some of the scheduling that's happened and some of the places we are with it. So we gave some feedback, we asked some questions, but I think that, like Jay said, I think that they're still just collecting all that. So we got to really make sure we put it out there for our parents.
Maggie,
And,
what's on the second survey that wasn't on the first survey? I'm just curious why they're doing a second round of surveys.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
It could be that they've refined it. Like they could, a lot of the first survey was a lot of open
Yeah.
responses. So it could be that they've kind of narrowed it down a little more, or maybe from the feedback from the first survey or through some of these meetings, they've kind of come up with some ideas that they want to kind of test out. So maybe that's what we're going to see, but I'm excited to see it
want
too.
more people, not, you know, not everyone filled it out. So, okay, awesome. Thank you guys for going to that. You know, I know Lizzie put some stuff in the cluster meeting, but maybe we should circle back with her and get some info, or just, you know, validate some of that, because I know she put some stuff in the North Atlanta cluster Facebook thing today.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't, was there anything highlight, just a couple things there?
It was just a few things. Just starting next month, they're gonna move from having the Board of Education meetings. It'll actually be on YouTube Live. They'll stream there. That was one of the things. Pretty much everything else we went over. The other thing I was gonna talk about was the survey coming back out, but Maggie hit on that already. And also there was something about if schools being at 95% capacity, they'll be getting extra money. So I'll follow,
because we're like 65%. Yeah.
yeah. So we will, I'll follow back up with her more on that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I just have a couple announcements. Everyone needs to go and complete the Go Team budget training by next meeting. Has anyone done that? That's on supposed to be like 5-10 minutes on the ELIS system. Is that what it's called? So make sure you do that. And then announcement wise, NAPS is holding a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, February 7th at 6:30. We're really trying to encourage Go Team members to come to the NAPS events. And it's with Michaela Arciega. I'm sure I said her name wrong, but about public education issues that our state legislator has on the ballot this year. So that's like education funding. The school vouchers is a really big one, because that could take money away from us, and also school climate. So it's in the B-mail and everything, but we'd love to have Go Team members come to that. It's on Zoom, so hopefully it can be flexible. And then our next meeting is going to be February 15th, which is the Thursday before winter break, and that is our budget feedback meeting. And then we have another meeting in February as well. Let me just make sure we have it. February 29th. Yes. So make sure everyone just has those down. Anything else, you guys? Any other announcements?
I have a question. Has anyone heard of any of the live trainings? I'm still missing a live training, but when I email the ELIS people, they just said it would come soon, but that was months ago.
I wouldn't
now.
worry about it.
There
It
was
took me
one
like
in
a year.
August, but there hasn't been one.
Yeah, it's before me. Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Stressing. Try that too.
Just do the budget one.
Definitely.
All right. Anything else? I think we're at the end of our agenda. Any other additional business? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Thomas. A second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ashley. All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Look at that. We're like at 58 minutes. That was efficient. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you soon.
Bye.